Welcome back to Crafted Reality, a podcast by Yellow Brick, hosted by me, Ali John, and my partner in crime, Julian Sykes. In this episode, we chat with the brilliant Danny Muir, who has made a career both working in digital and traditional spaces, from running a comedy ASMR YouTube channel to working as a production stage manager for theatre and immersive experiences. We talk about his creative process and approach to making work. Making work, which is about just starting and seeing where it leads. Before we jump in, a quick reminder to like, subscribe if you're enjoying the show. It helps us reach more listeners like you. And if you really want to support the podcast and gain access to exclusive content, head over to our Patreon page. The link is in the show notes. So, without further ado, let's get stuck in. Welcome to the Crafted Reality podcast. It's lovely to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
That's all right. Anytime. So I had a little peeky look at your website and I'm really pleased that you're wearing a hat, because if you weren't, I'd be really upset, because it says on your website you're a person that wears many hats, both literally and figuratively.
I love hats.
Yeah, and that is a sterling hat.
Thank you.
It's a beautiful green corduroy.
I believe it is corduroy. I got it from, I'm not sponsored obviously, but
No.
Lucy and Yak is one of this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
It looks like really comfortable, but, like softness to it, but also, a firmness at the same time.
It does, thanks for noticing. It does have a really unique firmness to it, and that's, I think, why I like wearing it. So it's one of my go-to hats. I also have it in brown, blue, purple. I love a hat.
I would love if also, when you were saying that, you'd just kind of whip
that would be good.
multiple hats off.
So Joseph Technicolor Dreamcoat hat situation.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wish. That'd be amazing. I should do that just wear 7 hats.
If you could, that would be amazing. From now on, I'd really love you to do that.
What they called, like Marishka dolls? What they're like, that's what
Yeah,
they're called?
yeah.
Which with hats. Yeah, good. I will do that.
So a man of many hats, a person of many hats. Tell us a little bit about that in terms of you as an individual, as a creative person, as a producer, as a stage manager, as just an all-round amazing person.
Oh, that's very nice. Just to caveat that before I start talking, and this is probably the thing that a podcast host wants to hear the very least, so their guests say. Quite bad. I love talking. Very bad at talking about myself. So at some point I might just sort of ramble off into nothingness. Feel free to sort of stop me by hitting me or something if I start doing that.
That's okay.
I think I found quite early on when I was doing stuff professionally that I got really bored just wearing the one hat, both literally and figuratively. It's I started off as just trying to do acting, and I found that was bloody hard.
Yeah.
You got to remember, they make you remember lines and you have to sort of do as you're told for a bit, and then people clap, which is great. I love it when they clap. But it just wasn't for me. You have to do a lot of effort in the back. So I started being I might explore some other creative options. Previously before that, I did a bunch of stuff on YouTube and stuff. So I was behind the camera a bit, and I was I quite enjoy doing all that sort of stuff. So I thought, hey, why not learn a bunch of different stuff and ultimately try and become more employable? Was kind of the secret goal of that. So I went into backstage stuff, stage management, which led me into some design aspects, which led me into some sort of production management, some creative technology stuff. And after a while I realized that I think I just get bored too easily just doing the one thing. I think I admire loads people who can just do the one thing. If someone is I am an actor, or I am a lighting designer, or I bake cakes, and I'm that's amazing that you have enough time to put you can just do that, and that's just your thing, and you get really good at that. Whereas I've kind of gone for the jack of all trades, master of all approach.
But the ending of that is actually really positive, isn't it? I'm going to have to look it up online to see exactly how that ends, because we use that as often a thing to, I guess, be quite self-deprecating, but actually being a jack of all trades, master of none. And then let me just have a little look at how that ends, because it's super positive, and I didn't actually realise it because I would use it in that way. Wow, where is it? Jack of all trades, master of none is often used as a compliment for a person who's good at fixing things and has a good level of broad knowledge,
They may be a master of integration, an individual who knows enough from many learned trades and skills to be able to bring the disciplines together in a practical manner. This person is a generalist rather than the specialist.
Oh, that's a very nice way to look at that.
Yeah.
That's very lovely.
I can't find the actual, the full thing, but maybe I'll pop it in the show notes. But yeah, I think we use it as a self-deprecating thing, and often think that just because you can do lots of different things doesn't mean you are skilled. In many ways, it's sort of that you are highly knowledgeable about lots of different things.
Yeah, I guess so. And I suppose, I think the same applies to you both as well. I know that's like, I can imagine it's a thing you both embody as well. It's just the idea of, I guess it brings it's a very unique skill set to have a lot of skills. It's a skill set in of itself, I suppose. And that's something I've learned just through years of doing stuff in like a stage management capacity, when someone's like, could you also do this thing? I was like, I can do that thing. And it's just useful, I guess. Also just useful in my personal life, just to be able to do a bunch of stuff. Yeah.
So you said that you started making YouTube videos. So how long ago was that?
Too long ago. I think I was but a tiny child when I started doing all that sort of stuff. I think it was 2011 or 2012.
A young Danny Muir.
Second?
A young Danny Muir.
A tiny, but a shadow of my former self. I think it was back then I started making ASMR videos when that was barely just a thing on YouTube, when YouTube was a very different place and a very different platform. That was before the algorithm came in. That was back pre-algorithm YouTube, where all you needed to do to get seen by people on YouTube was just make a good video, and a bunch of people just shared it around, and then YouTube was like, that video's got lots of clicks, and then it just pushed it, because that's how that used to work. I bloody loved it then. It's so much easier.
It's a magical space.
Yeah, it's a magical space where you just had to like make a good video and people had to like it, and then YouTube was like, that's good. Now, you got to do like dance. It's a whole thing. So back then I was just making ASMR videos, and then my channel happened to blow up, both because I was doing something quite unique in the space that wasn't really done loads then, about making sort of comedy ASMR role plays, and then because the niche itself blew up alongside of it, it kind of made my channel give a bit more light to it. And it's not a huge channel in terms of like numbers or anything like that. It's not like it's like rivaling any of the sort of the greats, but it's just weird how that's sort of been like something that's always been with me my whole adult life in many different ways. And a lot of the skills I've learned from that, I've done professional editing and photography and all of that, and that's all skills I've learned from sort of sitting around with a camera when I was a kid making YouTube videos.
Because you've got an alter ego, haven't you, who is quite prominent on the YouTube video. I'm just going to read, I've taken this from your YouTube channel.
Turns into, this is your life now.
Yes. And through the door we welcome. So welcome to the back streets of ASMR. We are cooking up some comedy ASMR role plays and generally being big old goofs. I'm a British YouTuber who loves making content that's unexpected, funny, and still relaxing to boot. So your alter ego is Danny
Docile.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit more about...
Oh, it's never been described as an alter ego before. I like that. It sounds very Jekyll and Hyde.
Yeah.
That's really fun.
He wears a different hat, right?
He does wear it. Well,
very different set of hats, I'd imagine.
Very different. He doesn't wear a hat.
Oh.
He very rarely wears a hat on a YouTube video.
That's a curveball.
Isaac is a huge curveball. Danny Docile, I guess it's just more of it's an excuse for me to be a bit of a clown, really, and just sort of have fun, improvise some nonsense in front of a camera, and just sort of, I learned just on the YouTube stuff quite early on that I find it really hard to be authentic in any sense, both in my professional and personal life. It's a struggle of mine.
Is it a struggle right now?
Yeah, it's a huge struggle. It's a really big struggle. And it was a way that I could just sort of properly lean into how just be very silly, just create a sort of like persona, as it were, that is never really serious in any aspect whatsoever, and use it as an excuse to sort of get all that out, really, and have a bit of fun, and making wacky scenarios, wacky role plays, interacting with people in kind of strange ways. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I enjoy it. I don't have enough time to do it anymore, which is a shame. I want to get back into it, but it's, being an adult is tricky, isn't it? You've got so much stuff to do.
Yeah. All this
stuff, like,
pieces of work to do.
Yeah, I want to go make a YouTube video, but I've got to go shopping. It's a pain.
And what was the inspiration for Danny Docile?
Oh,
Like, where did he come from?
Oh.
So do you feel he's a part of you, or is it,
Sure.
like secretly a part of you? Maybe it is.
I think he just is me.
Yeah.
I think I don't see that as too much of a separation in terms. I the way I categorize it in my head is it's just the name of the YouTube channel, and it's me being a goof. And I think it's just an excuse for me to be a bigger goof than I'm usually allowed to be in my day-to-day life, because people get annoyed at me if I'm that silly, sort of, usually. I think the inspiration generally came just from, I used to watch a lot of ASMR videos when it first came out. I've got really bad, tinnitus, or I don't know how you pronounce it. So sleeping is sometimes a little bit tricky. So it was something that I just found on the internet. I was like, oh, that's nice, something to put on in the background. And I did that for a year or so. And then one Christmas, I got like a little video camera. And I was, I'm going to give us a little shot myself. Try and give back to this very niche community. I was also aware at the time, for some because most of the people doing it were in America, and people in America seem to really like people with British accents. I don't know why that's the case, but that is a thing. And that was like a request from the community generally to be like, we need more British people. I was like, I got it. Oh, I got that. That's what I've got. I can do that with my mouth. So I just started making it from that, and then I realised traditional ASMR videos are really hard to do, because you've just got to be uninteresting I haven't got to be interesting. Back then, you just had to make noises with a spoon in a cup, or just whisper about your day, and I can't do that. I was a kid, I wasn't doing anything. It was and then two, and so I was like, I'll do something a little bit different, and I found that people quite enjoyed having a bit of silliness in there, because that wasn't a thing that was happening back then too much. Happens loads now. I don't want to say I'm responsible for that. But I 100% I'm saying that I am, with absolutely no basis in reality or research. And yeah.
I mean, at the time, I didn't know anybody else that was doing it.
Yeah.
Did you, Julian?
No.
Well, there we go.
Yeah.
I think.
I mean, research.
Yeah,
that's just happened right there.
This
is
peer-reviewed research.
We'll publish it by the end of the podcast, because, as I said, it is endurance, so it's going to be easy to do.
Yeah, but no, it's interesting, because I sort of came up the same time as some of the people who were the giants of that now. Back when I only had 500 subscribers, they also only had 100 subscribers back then. We used to talk a fair bit, and these people had millions or tens of millions in some cases. It's their life now. It's their career. Some of friends of mine that I speak to occasionally, and it's just whack to see how they got on the bubble at the right time, and they rode it in the right way with the right sort of content, and got really lucky, and they're sort of huge now. And it's just really interesting to see people's trajectories through that.
Yeah, what do you think that is because the ASMR traditionally, I guess, I don't know a huge amount about it, but yeah, as you said, you were using it for, I guess, a sense of sort of relaxation, and I guess, is that sort of traditionally where it came from?
Yeah, I think that is where it was birthed, was a sense of it is nice to listen to. I think ASMR itself is it's a physical feeling that some people get, where it just sort of feels all tingly and feels all nice when people do certain things, triggers, cutting paper or tapping on things, or mouth sounds, or whispering, or someone being like that. Generally, I don't experience ASMR, the actual feeling itself personally. It's just something nice to listen to. But yeah, I think it birthed through that initially, and people just sort of discovering this was a thing. So it was quite a unique physical phenomenon that people were like, all right. And more people found out about it, and it was neat, and it sort of bowed through that. I think with the growth of it on YouTube, I think partly the reason it started becoming really huge the same sort of time that the YouTube algorithm kicked in. And I think partly because it just got really popular. It was a search term that kept getting on. It just grew the natural way that those sorts of things do. But early days in the algorithm as well, there was a problem, specifically within the AS. Well, it's not a problem. It's just a thing. Earlier on, there was a concept and it's still the case now, called the cute gets the click, which is just a lot of young pretty women, and that's the thumbnails, and people that's nice. And you'll click on that, and that's lovely. And they were also making excellent content. It's just not, obviously just not that. But then because of that, it barreled through, and then because it was quite a unique thing, all of the ASMR community was just that. So it like barreled up and barreled through, and then now it's a really huge thing. It's not just because of that, but that was one of the defining factors of its growth and stuff like that.
And then this kind of like the sort of stuff that you're doing or have done is this kind of comedic, maybe slightly dark, dry humour. Why do you think at the time people enjoyed that? What do you think the draw was for audiences?
Sure. I think it was something that was just a little bit different. I think when you click on something that's expected to be just usually people whispering and relaxing, and you have some idiot wearing something stupid saying something stupid, it's just a bit unexpected, and there is, I think, a lot of relaxation and safety and joy in laughter and in comedy, and I think that can be equally as safe and relaxing as the gentle intimacy of the other stuff. I trust people who make me laugh. I don't know why, but if someone can make me laugh, I'm like, I like you. And I think part of that might have come from that. But no, I've never really thought about it.
Yeah, I guess there's something to that, isn't there, where it's kind of like, I guess it's a bit similar to a relationship, but in a totally different way, where if you do make someone laugh, you've kind of unlocked something, haven't you? That's kind of like, I've not let you into that knowledge, and yet you've somehow accessed it, and it's made me chuckle. You know, and it feels like, oh yeah, that person, and particularly if it's on the edge of a spectrum of laughter, you know, like you kind of go, oh, that person's got like a very dark sense of humour or something, and you very much respond to it.
Yeah.
Rather than it being a knock-knock joke. Do you know what I mean? Like
you feel seen.
Yeah.
You feel, oh, that person gets me.
Yeah.
Oh, they made me laugh. I like that sort of humour as well. I like that person. They get me.
Yeah. The odd thing, though, is when you then make eye contact with them for a bit too long, and then you realise, oh, they didn't really mean that to be funny, and then that's when it's a bit of a worry.
Are you talking from personal
Yeah,
experience?
yeah, absolutely.
I saw the trauma in your eyes.
Yeah, it's absolutely. You're there going. They just go,
Oh, look, a bird.
Yeah.
Look, there's a different conversation over there.
Yeah.
Okay,
I was laughing at the man falling over, you know.
Good old traditional comedy, that, isn't it? I think he slipped on a banana skin, but, you know.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I've never thought about it before, but yeah, definitely there feels like there's a very different connection, but something that you definitely kind of go, oh yeah, that's kind of, that person is kind of interesting.
It's one of the sort of the defining pillars of that classic sort of parasocial relationship YouTube thing, in terms of, which is like a thing that I have like a weird relationship with anyway, like that, to be a presence on, partly the reason why I struggle to do it and I haven't really gone full force into it is just you have to be okay with the level of like the parasocial relationship between yourself and audience, and like part of it, as you were saying, is like being comfortable with like presenting yourself as that figure who does see the person, who does know that person, and like is sort of mates with them but not mates with them, and is like really like, and then sort of towing the line between creator and friend and like approachable figure, but someone who ultimately needs to be able to monetize those people in a way that like is parasocial, because you're saying, look, hey, you should give me this attention or give me this money or give me this time because I'm me and you like what I do. I've always really struggled with that.
Yeah, I guess there's some. It's really. It does go back to that kind of audience question or friend question, doesn't it? And I think it must be a challenge to. We've just described a scenario where you're in a room, you're making a joke and you're seeing a reaction straight in front of you. There's no seeing that person laughing at your thing on a video. You're assuming by literally a number of, and a percentage of a view of the video that some people have either really, really devastatingly self-harmed themselves mentally, or they like what they're watching. And then the relationship of conversation generally is only through text. not spoken word, because obviously they're just commenting. So you've got all of these kind of very, very human things that are then distilled down and filtered into what is probably the most inefficient way of presenting humour, emotion, or anything in text. Because I don't know about yourself, but all you read in a comment is, I think that person's being negative. I think. Even if it's like, great video.
It's like,
Maybe it's
they might have
sarcastic.
said that sarcastically.
Yeah,
They might be
exactly.
like, great video.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Exclamation mark.
And you're there full rant, and they go,
It's like,
oh, maybe they didn't mean that. You know, it's so uneven.
yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. No, it's a really hard line to toe, and it's a really tricky thing to. Partly, this goes back to the whole thing I was saying earlier about really struggling to be authentic, because I feel like if I'm never really authentic, I never really have to engage with it in that manner. I never really have to be like, oh, this person's being mean to me, therefore I'm going to be mean to them. Like, I can just respond with nonsense.
Yeah.
Just like absolute abject sort of nonsense, and they'll be like, what am I supposed to do with that? I'm like,
Yeah.
well, I feel like I've won somehow.
Gonna go put the kettle on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
mic drop on every single comment.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting.
Yeah, in terms of like that interaction with the audience, what's been the most surprising comments or unexpected comments that you've had from audience engagement in that way?
And this will seem like a humble brag, but it's not intended to be that way. Like, I don't really get negative comments.
I
on
think that's
what
great.
I do. I think, which is lovely and really nice. Or if I do get negative comments, I don't realise they're negative comments, and I take them at face
You
value.
are the reverse.
Yeah, I'm just like, oh, that person's being sarcastic. They obviously love what I'm doing.
Yeah. Oh, and like that person's actually taken the time to write something on my channel.
yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, that person's saying they hate me, but
Oh, that's
I
great.
love it.
Thank you very much.
I'll text you, be like, Danny, did you see that comment? Oof. Like, I know, amazing.
I know,
right?
amazing. They took the time to comment that I should kill myself. How lovely of them. Yeah. No,
They really care about
yeah,
me.
they really care about it. It's such a beautiful platform, YouTube. Yeah, I think that like just the overwhelming positivity that I usually get, and I think that comes from having my channel so long, and it's not that the growth hasn't really been exponential. So like a lot of the people who are commenting, watching my videos have been watching my videos like 10 years. So at that point, like I have a sustained audience. It's a small audience, but they're fantastic and kind and lovely, and very rarely do people. It's only when I do something that like, pushes the boat out, or the algorithm picks it up, or I do something about something like politically divisive, that like I tend to get comments, like mean comments. But even then, like it's really easy to see that they're not really mad at me. They're mad at my views or what I'm expressing. Like I'm just a vessel for what that is, and I'd like it's the only things that have surprised me, like properly been like, oh, this, like I've been recognized in person a couple, like 3 or 4 times.
Have you?
Yeah.
That's exciting.
And it's never not weird.
Yeah.
Like one time I was in Bath doing something, and some guy came up to me. I thought he was gonna mug me, and he was like, "Are you Danny?" And I was like, "Yeah, Danny Docile." And I was like, "Oh, yeah." And he was like, "Oh, I just want to say I really love your channel." And I was like, "Oh, that's very nice of you, thank you." And I was on a night out in Cardiff like a couple of years after that, and some guy came up to me and went like, and like I was in the Edinburgh Fringe like a couple of years ago, and some guy was, when I was just sat in like the quad at the Jack Dome just doing some stuff, and some guy was like, "Oh, I just want to say I love your YouTube videos," which is like absolutely mad to me.
Yeah.
To be like recognised for, because from my perspective, I just point a camera at my face, just say whatever comes out of my mouth, do a really bad rush edit of it, never look at it again and upload it, and then forget about it. And then for some people to sort of say they've watched those videos, like, because the nature of what ASMR is, like people have like playlists and rotations, so sometimes it's like it just so happens by luck they like there's a video they've watched like hundreds of times if it's like always on the same playlist. So for them to be so intimate with something that I've forgotten immediately, it's just a very weird. When people like quote stuff at me, I'm like, that might have been something I said.
Yeah.
Like it's all improvised. It's all like on the spot improvisation. So it's never anything I write down or really remember the premises of. So yeah, to have people engage with it that way, and then meeting those people in person and hearing that it's kind of helps them sleep, and like, yeah, that's been the most surprising thing I think of sort of dealing with that. Yeah.
Yes, it's interesting. You just talked about how you approach your videos. So is it always like that? You just kind of, do you just have an idea and then you just kind of run with it live on camera in terms of like, you know, no scripting, it's just, I'm just going to see what happens.
Yeah. Well, it depends how I'm filming, and it depends what I'm doing, but usually I'll have a very base premise of an idea. So it'll usually be like a line or a sentence or a couple of words, like Doctor Who can't read. And then I'll just be like, all right, I can play with that for 15 minutes on a camera and just see where that goes. And it's a real hit and miss style of video making, because sometimes you do something, you're like, actually, I've tapped into something here, that's quite funny. Or you just do a 20-minute video and you're like, this is awful. Like this premise should not have gone beyond that word. But you're like, well, 20 minutes later, I've like mined as much as I can out of this. And you upload it and everyone's like, yeah, nice video. I'm like, yeah, I fucking know. Like, what do you want from me?
I tried.
Yeah, I tried. You're not paying for this shit. Like, just don't watch
free.
it. It's free, yeah.
Have you not published?
Like it's quite embarrassing to actually say, but no. If I've gone through the effort to make it, I'll be like, it's going up, and I'll be like, I know it's not the description will probably be like, this is shit.
Is your finger really close to the upload button at every moment?
Yeah,
Like that.
it's just like
ready to go.
Ready to go. It's just very, very rare. My quality control is, can you see or hear me? And if the answer to one of them is yes.
I was going to say, or that word. Can you see or hear me? Not can you see and hear me?
Yeah.
If one is good, it's on.
I went through recently, because I used to have like 600-700 videos on my channel, and I went through and blitzed a lot of the early ones because I was looking at it going like, this isn't content. This is just because obviously back like 10 years ago, I'm not the seasoned professional I am now. Like a 17-year-old trying to do on-spot improv about, it's not good. It's not good content. I don't know what I was on about. I don't have any life experience. I was just saying words. So I got rid of a lot of those because I was looking back and going, this isn't good.
Did you just take them from the public view, or have you deleted
them? Oh yeah,
them?
I don't like deleting
I was going to
things.
say,
yeah. I privated them.
You'll probably go back in a couple of years' time and kind of go, oh, those were the golden years.
Oh, those were the golden years. Flailing
I'm going to republish them as an absolute...
Or go back and go, nope, still shit.
Me flailing around in my parents' living room when I was 17 before I went to uni, and just being like, this is when I peaked. All the stuff after that.
Private.
Yeah.
I kind of love that freedom that you have of just, I've done it, I'm just going to put it out there and see what lands and see what sticks. That's just so, just so freeing, actually. Because we were talking to Lisa Helleth-Jones in the last couple of podcasts, and we were talking about this kind of fear almost of putting stuff out there that you, and I guess in terms of like, the spontaneity maybe with your work means it's kind of just so much in the present moment. Whereas sometimes I guess with some of the stuff me and Lisa were talking about, you kind of sometimes just agonise over stuff sometimes for too long a period of time that you then end up talking yourself out of it.
Sure.
End up talking yourself out of putting it public or even making it. So it's so refreshing to hear a really different kind of approach, and not have that, I suppose, anxiety around your creativity and the work that you make. And
I wish I had that anxiety. I wish I could do. I wish I agonised over things, and I wish I had that. I'm just too impulsive. I feel like I would make much better content, much more like considered content, and much funnier content if I was the sort of person that was like, oh, what if this is wrong? I want to tweak this, and spending like the idea of spending like a couple of days on an edit for like, it's crazy to me. And I wish it wasn't. I wish I could be like, sit down and like, I'm just too impulsive.
But then like, I suppose like, it sort of sounds like, the journey of like when you were 17-year-olds to, the time that you were making content as an older adult. You obviously sort of feel that you've made this progression by doing, and by doing you've been refining or learning at least to understand this works, this doesn't work. I don't know, that kind of feels
I guess
such an interesting process.
No, I think that's a nice way to look at it. I suppose I have, there's a certain, like, I've refined the way to like quickly do things, and that has become my style, and which has been really nice. And I think I have learnt loads in terms of just how to work quickly and how to do quality control without and what works and what doesn't. But I think I guess in my view, I've also because of that, I am an incredibly impulsive content creator now. So when it comes to like other areas, so when it comes to like when I'm doing sort of photography, when I'm doing like the Lightroom edits or like the Photoshop edits on my photography side, or like 3D stuff, or any sort of like creation of like assets, I still have that same mindset where I'm like, okay, this works, it's good, it's gone. Whereas I feel like some things don't benefit from that like impulsive mindset, or like writing like scripts, for example, or like when you go into, or like when you go into like the more theatre world, I still have some of that in the back of my head of going, this works, send it. When in fact, you probably should be like, this works, Danny, maybe think about that. Maybe maybe have a little sleep on that before you send that email, or maybe like read that again, because that doesn't make any sense. I feel like but how much of that is actually what I've learned, and how much of that is that's my video style, because that's who I am as a person, and it's just really hard for me to not do that. I don't know, but yeah.
We
Decisions.
Yeah, we had the almost identical conversation with Lisa.
Yeah, it's just so interesting.
But in a different way. Like we were talking about the differences of. It's kind of a bit like. I think it's kind of a little bit like the idea of progress. And I think maybe 10 years ago we started trying to think about things. We were looking at educational ideas, and it was always about the idea of like the current education system with exams. So you fail an exam and your society says you're now not able to get GCSE. And it's just inaccurate, isn't it? It's like let's say you had 60% of a GCSE, so that's not nothing, you know what I mean? And so you're always progressing. It just means you're 40% away from GCSE. So when you go back and reset, you're not starting from scratch. And then I think that kind of comes into the realms of progress and moving forward, and there's different ways of doing it, isn't there? And I think the idea of consistent movement forward and outputting things, and seeing what works and what doesn't. I guess the only kind of question, I guess, is there any analysis as you go in some ways? I think is the only thing, isn't it? It's like there needs to be some form of reflection, and whether that's naturally inbuilt within the process, or whether it's, I don't know, just something that kind of comes to you with maturity. You know, like sometimes you need to do a lot to then kind of, it's not like, sometimes I think you can do it like after each thing, and then other times I think it can come after a body of work, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think it's, again, every answer is, it depends really, doesn't it? Because I think it's always different depending on the nature of the thing. And I think it also maybe changes depending on where you are in your learning of that thing. So, you know, at the beginning when you're learning new, it's kind of overwhelming, isn't it? And then when you get to a level where you've got body of work, there's much more of an element of, now I've kind of experienced a lot of it, so I am kind of like at the other end kind of tweaking in some way.
I guess, yeah, once the start is you're learning the rules, and at that point it's very hard to be analytical at all about what's going on, because it's, yeah, you don't know what the rules are to be able to analyze yourself through them. But once you've got further on and you've developed that practice and you've written your own rules, then I suppose it's all about just using what that is to develop to your own practice and keep it expanding. And yeah.
And coming back to the comedic side of the kind of worlds that you've kind of crafted within your YouTube, I was having a conversation with somebody the other day where we were just talking about, there sort of often feels like there's a lack of comedy and humour just within immersive work in general. And I suppose I'm using immersive in a kind of very broad term, because, you know, I would say in some camps your work with the ASMR YouTube videos is immersive. You know, it totally encompasses somebody's sense of sound and hearing and listening, and you're absorbed by that in terms of like then being immersed in something. But then I guess more, I guess if we're going to kind of narrow the word immersive to like specific immersive technologies where the technology is the kind of conduit.
Yeah, it's kind of like, if you think about it, it doesn't mean, I don't think this is a negative, but I think it's definitely a fact. I think there's a discussion with the immersive technologies as being three things. I think one of them as a service.
Yeah.
So I think a service is important. Like, it's got to have a function, right? And because of that, then I mean, these are maybe contentious, but then generally speaking, it either goes the Tron way and sci-fi, or it goes and time travels backwards and shows you what the past was. And neither of them are particularly revolutionary. And like I think you're kind of hinting at, like, I don't know if is comedy, like I guess a comedy or a genre like comedy just doesn't seem to get a look in.
Yeah, which is a shame.
Yeah, so I don't know if that's true. You know, it's just a kind of like we were having a conversation about, like there just seems to be like a lack of, or less kind of.
Can you think of let's say VR headset thing that's a comedy?
/ humorous / fun.
Yeah, there's a couple out there, but they're from like very defined studios that just do comedy. Like the ones that spring to mind are the creators of Rick and Morty have done a couple of VR experiences and those are very funny. They're a couple of games and a couple of experiences, and like generally there's a lot of like quirky humor in the independent creators that make sort of some of the VR. I can't think of any off the top of my head. You get bits and bobs of that, but I think when you move into like the VR art world and like VR like generally immersive world, there's very little. Because I guess from my perspective, and I'm not sure if this is true, I'd view it like incorrectly, and I think this is wrong. I think people shouldn't do this, but people like when they go like, when you think of immersive work, you think, oh, it's very profound, or you're being transported to another space, or there's dolphins everywhere and I'm underwater, or whatever. And like it doesn't. I like
sunsets.
Yeah, lots of sunsets. Being in a jungle that's moving through time, or whatever. It's just like they are not easy avenues for comedy, because I think with comedy, you need to have an idea that is funny, or be able to have a percent. Like you need to go, this will be really funny. Like, how do we make it work in an immersive environment? As opposed to, I think, what a lot of people are going, like, we have an immersive environment. What should we do with it? And like, if you explore it from the way of someone goes, let's do something funny, that's a really mental, like, how on earth do you like just get a funny thing and just pop it in a 3D space? It's not like it's a very weird work through. I don't know. I'm making a lot of assumptions and guesses on how like people's workflows are for that sort of work. But yeah, I think it is a shame there's not more comedy. And I guess comedy is really like, in that space, like it's really, there's no established form for exactly what is funny in those like immersive environments, like VR specifically. There's like, you need to have a really solid idea and a lot of money and be able to write comedy, and those things are quite tricky.
I guess there's a lot of stages away from the publish, isn't there, of the piece. And I guess, like as you hinted earlier, I assume the starting of a YouTube channel, and then you mentioning kind of learning to edit and all those kind of things, they're necessary by default, unless you've got people who around you that also, you weirdly find the perfect Steven Spielberg childhood where everyone wants to be a filmmaker, someone wants to be a sound engineer, they're all like best friends, and their dads are from like HP and they've got garages. Do you know what I mean? And they can do whatever they want. Slightly different in the UK, I think, but anyway. And it feels like you learn a lot of things, and I guess going to the VR kind of, or any of those, it adds another chunk of learning on top, doesn't it? Whereas you've made a video in 20 minutes, you've edited it in a few hours and it's up. You've done that, and then you've got another bit on top to kind of maybe do that. Obviously takes away that spontaneity currently, maybe. Yeah,
no, you're absolutely right. Me and Toby, I believe a previous guest on your podcast, we sat down a little while ago in my office and we were like, let's make a game. Let's make a little VR game. How hard can it be? And so we sat down with Unity and tried to learn Unity, and I'm pretty all right with it now. I get how it works and like that. But like, it just takes bloody ages. You've got to do so much stuff. It's not like, it's like concepting, designing, then you've got to actually code the game, and after you've coded it, you've got to upload the animations, and after all that, you've got to like actually do the thing. And you got, but it's that versus turn a camera on, talk shit for half an hour, turn it off, upload it, and forget about it.
Yeah, done.
It's just like, I'm like, it's just so much effort, but it's like, obviously it's good effort. It's good thing. Like it's such a valuable thing. Oh, it just takes.
Yeah, we're thinking of making a 3-hour game, and then 2 hours later. So it's definitely a 2-minute, 3-minute kind of like snatch and grab game. Yeah, snatch, grab, and it's finished. You know.
Yeah. I think when I was messing around with Unity, I think I managed to make a VR experience that was like maybe 40 seconds, and like it was really low. Like it was like PlayStation 1 graphics, so it was like you didn't need anything fancy. And it was only like a couple of hundred lines of code. It was like nothing big at all. And even that took me like weeks. It's like,
you made a great game, didn't you?
I think I've still, weirdly, so you know this is a really, really good game. Like in Unity, what's this now? How many years ago?
Oh gosh, 5,
6, 7.
This is
maybe
pre-COVID, I think.
8 years ago, I reckon. You know the game that came out recently that was called Unchained, and it had two people and they were chained together. Yeah. And then there was another game about a similar time that was similar to that was, I think it was just, you were just on your own, you just had to go to the top.
When you had to do the jumping, yeah.
So I made that game 8 years ago on
I love
Unity.
that, again, this is another thing of like, not that you're saying that you paved the way.
Yeah, I mean, no one saw it beyond the office. Yeah, beyond the office. And basically what happened is, like, I'm really bad at playing computer games. I've got the dexterity of someone that doesn't have very good dexterity. Yes. So I'm like, oh, this must be tough.
Dexterity of a seal?
Yes.
Just flippers.
Playing so I'm thinking, this must be tough. Anyway, I showed everyone in the office and they did it first go. I was like, God damn it, that must... So basically I just added level on level on level on level. It was just a jumping game, 3D jumping game. And then weirdly somehow I managed to make it that as soon as they touched the object, it started falling.
Nice.
So it just had grab, not intentional at all, but it made it a lot harder. And so it was like probably like 15 levels higher. No one could finish it. It's like, my work here is done.
The object isn't to create a good game, it is to create a hard game.
Yeah. So
it
was just hilarious. But yeah, I don't know. It is a lot of work, and I think you're right. You can see why people generally have teams, and you can see you read of the stories, the few indies that are literally one-man bands, and it goes back to your kind of conversation earlier, where the ability, and I'm the same as you, the ability to imagine it's almost professionality in a way, or the desire to constantly be refining and building one thing is kind of wild to me. I feel like I don't have that, and I don't think it's patience. I think it's something else. I think it's more like I'm not sure if I've got that craft in me in some ways. I feel like that knowledge or that deepness of that in that subject matter just, I feel like I feel uneasy almost imagining being like that kind of person. And to not be able to kind of jump into something else or do a little bit different. And maybe that's a bit of a naivety of me kind of thinking that person might be doing that within them, within the thing. So they might be going, I'll do a bit of coding today, and I'll be doing some texturing and so on. And it's not they are kind of mixing it up. But I feel like I would see it as one project, and that feels quite very hard, I think.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think it's almost like I'm telling myself, well, this is this project, but what if this project doesn't work, or is like, I'm wasting my time? Well, if I get out as quickly as possible, I can move on to the next project, and then that just cycle just keeps going. I think that's how my brain works. Yeah.
So do you think it is a little bit about failure in some respects?
I guess, but I think in
Or
terms
do you
of
like the reduction of quality? Not the,
Yeah,
you know what I
yeah.
mean, like that
No,
thing.
no, I know exactly what you
because
mean.
it's
Yeah, yeah,
speed,
yeah.
and therefore, well, I could have done more.
Yeah.
Decided not to, got out quicker.
Yeah, I think that's that. It's like
Yeah.
it's a safety blanket, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I failed. Well, I only failed because I
Yeah,
didn't put any effort into it.
I'd have crushed it otherwise.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely crushed it.
Oh yeah, if I'd spent time on it, phew, knocked it out of the park. Oh, next thing.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's my whole life is just saying that 50 times a week.
That's great.
You wait.
Yeah, just you wait until.
It's funny though, isn't it? It's really weird. You definitely have the element of refinement.
Yeah,
I think.
sometimes.
Yeah. Do you not think?
Sometimes, yeah. I think but I think sometimes it's a good thing, I suppose. But then, because maybe I'm looking at the detail, but then in other ways it's sort of it's a bad thing because then it's never going to be perfect.
Yeah,
and it's impossible for it to be perfect. But I'm trying to.
You see the time put in, whereas I don't see any time put in.
Right.
Like you go, oh, we've put 10 hours into this. Well, let's make it as good as it can be. And I'm like, we put 10 hours into this. I want to now go and do something else. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to, because I'm feeling like nauseous now. I want to move on to something else. I want to put 10 hours into or whatever. Is there do you have any thought of audience when you're making stuff, or do you think it is more intrinsically internal to you just making?
I think it is like I should think about audience more, and I don't. I think it's all for me, really. Like in terms of depending on what I'm making, really. And I think quite a lot of the platforms that I just do sort of like creation for, I'm very thankful that they are just very perceptive to what I make for me. I've been lucky that I've curated an audience that like the same stuff that I do, so I can just make stuff for me, and usually it's received quite well in terms of that. But I think, if I thought about audiences more, I'd probably do better. It's my,
Who do you think your audience are? Talking about particularly the YouTube channel.
18 to 26-year-old guys, mainly from America, is my.
Looked at the demographics.
Yeah, that is very, very predominantly my audience. I think. According to the no women watch me, really. Not really.
I watched you. I watched you.
Oh,
From
literally
afar.
Thanks, mate.
Spike of one.
I think it's been a wee while since I've properly engaged. I think I imagine the landscape. I haven't been uploading consistently for at least a year now. I've just been doing other theatre-y stuff, and it's not really been compatible with. We just haven't had the time.
Yeah.
But back then, it was just mainly young guys.
Like in the ASMR, dark alley butcher content.
Yeah, loving all that. Apparently that strikes really well with the 18 to 26 American demographic. They bloody love a bit of that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I love it too. What's that say about me? I love it. Talking about kind of crafting realities. Great segue there.
That's the name of the podcast.
Yeah, I know.
That's good.
I think it's the first time I've managed to do that.
Quite
happy.
That's what we're talking about. Building.
That's nice.
Learnings.
Yeah, learnings.
In terms of like anything that you want to do from this point forward in terms of creatively, what excites you?
I really love. Well, it's a thing I've always said. It's one of the taglines of the first ever creative things I put out. It's something I always love doing, but something I very rarely get the chance to do because it's bloody difficult. I really like making work where you can't tell it's work. I like making things where you can't actually tell it's art. It just seems like a thing that's happening. Be it like working in for ARGs or making immersive work that is not technically theatre. It's just things that are happening with a script. And stuff like that. I really love exploring those sorts of things where people get really involved in it. You can't really tell if it's real or a game or real or a show. You're just experiencing it at the same time as everyone else. I really love stuff like that. And it doesn't happen loads, mainly because, as I'm sure you're both incredibly aware, fucking expensive. And the logistics of it are nonsense and it's a nightmare. Way more so than traditional theatre. Because there's just so much more things to consider and there's so much more planning that needs to go into it and the stuff you need to crazy. I love stuff like that. I feel like ARGs are so exciting and so cool and genuinely really fun forms of a mix between theatre and puzzle and game and immersion and story. people just don't do them because they require such a weird level of mixed media knowledge and puzzle knowledge and like in-depth knowledge of whatever thing that you are creating this game about, and you can't monetize them unless you're being paid by a marketing platform to do it specifically for that. Like they are impossible to monetize by nature of what they are. So yeah, maybe something like that. I really want to explore stuff like that. Those are the things that really, really excite me. They're just very rarely opportunities to do it, and it's one of those things I'm unsure how to create those. Like, I feel like if I wrote an Arts Council bid and been like, I want to make an ARG, a mixed bid, the response I'll get back is, what is that? Why do you want to do that, actually? That's not a theatre show. I mean, I could be wrong. They could look at it and go, that's cool, here's 10 grand, but I've not tried, to be honest. I probably should try. Probably should write an application. Yeah.
Do you think your improv is an element of that? Like, is there in the sense of, because I think I have a very similar kind of thing in terms of, I like generally like film acting better than theatre acting because generally it's a lot more realistic. Generally, it feels like they could be having a conversation and you could be in there in the room, compared to in theatre where if you did, your ears would be bleeding because they're projecting. There's this kind of like, and obviously there's levels and all that kind of stuff.
A fan of the realism.
Yeah, and I think the ARG thing takes it to the next level. When we were making street games, the ideas were that ideally that the people you meet felt real and they were not acting. They were kind of like taking you through effectively like a workshop in a sense. And they were kind of like doing improv within themselves and that kind of stuff, but they were kind of being themselves. And I think that we'll always remember the first, I think it was the first game we did when it was 2.8 hours in Bristol, and I'm pretty sure, I can't remember if he was a drunk or not. I can't remember which way around. We were there for 10 minutes talking to this guy on the street who had a big cider bottle. We were convinced he was in the game. Still, I can't remember if he is or wasn't.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah,
and we were literally, where are the zombies? Tell us where the zombies are.
That's
and he's
great.
like literally off his head. Or again, very good actor. And I can't remember if we saw him at the end.
Method actor.
Yeah, exactly. Literal method. Yeah, I can't remember if we saw him at the end or he was literally like drinking. And it's those kind of moments where you're bringing in your brain and you're bringing in your creativity into things like ARGs and street games to make them richer, unbeknownst to you. And you're like, wow, that was an incredible experience.
Yeah.
Because anything around you, because you are sort of standing in that reality, the way those things, and 2.8 did it really well. And I guess that the first game that we played of that, which was in Bristol, which was much smaller than the tour that they did thereafter, that was just incredible because it just felt like everybody was involved in it, when realistically, they weren't.
Yeah.
And it just felt so, absolutely real. And I think they curated the spaces really well, between very, very public spaces to then actually quite isolated locations within the city where, you could be totally absorbed. There was one location in that particular game that was a multi-storey car park, totally empty, really eerie. And we just got chased around by a zombie, didn't we?
Well, we got separated.
We got separated. It was so traumatic. Literally, it was traumatic. Absolutely traumatic.
That's great.
Somebody lost a shoe during that.
Yeah. Laura lost a shoe, and me and Laura were together.
Me and Carwyn.
You and Carl were together. You went to the top.
Yeah, we went to the top where I think the location element of narrative was happening.
Yeah.
I remember screaming down the phone, like properly, and all aspects of your body and mind are just totally absorbed by this.
And meantime, me and Laura were like in the stairwell, looking up at a zombie, going, "Oh, we're safe now. He's not going to get us." He jumped a flight of stairs down to us. We just and then she lost her shoe, and then I think it was what I had to go over attract his attention so she could get her shoe, and then we just legged it.
That's great
And then
fun.
we're like, oh, da, 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 da. And then these two were out there, and there was a guy with a gun at the top of the thing shooting people.
Yeah, I mean, it was wild.
And it was like, and they were like, no, we had the best experience. And it was like, no, we had the best experience. It's so funny.
It's just so much. It's just full of play, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
make believe in
Yeah.
a really in a way that you only really used to do as kids. But
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's just so much effort is being put into making it feel
And
really involved.
you genuinely do not come out of it. You know what I
No.
mean? You're genuinely in it. And
It's so much fun.
And it's kind of so different. It is, it's funny, isn't it? Like we talk about VR and stuff, and we have done, and we talk about those, and it feels now, if I think about like the zombie game on the VR, I can't remember what it's called, with the shotgun and stuff, it's just so synthetic. It it feels so different. Yeah, it's scary, but it's so different.
We're still in like PlayStation 1 graphics era with
Yeah.
VR, really, unless you're
Yeah.
getting really top end stuff, and you're sort of getting. We're just nowhere near.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the hardware isn't there yet.
It sort of has the tricks to trigger your nervous system into those moments of,
People
fear or
sprinting
surprise.
towards you, sort of stuff.
Yeah, but it's not quite the same. It is absolutely an illusion, isn't it? And I suppose you can argue the same for like physical events or
But
ARGs
you
or stuff.
You can always just turn the headset off.
Yeah.
But you're in a space though, and it is cold, or
That's
it is
true.
dark.
Yeah.
There is smell.
Yeah.
There's so much more to
Yeah.
that physical game that you're outside experiencing. It's just, it's just different, isn't
Yeah.
it? It's on a different level.
Because I remember in the same game, and it's weird when like episode 2.8, running down a hill in Bristol, being chased by a zombie. Somebody behind me, I think, as well, a player. I run into a shop, and I'm just like, oh my god. I'm like hiding. The shopkeeper's like, oh my god, are you alright? I was like, yeah, you don't understand. I've just been chased by a zombie. And he's like, what? And I was like, ugh. And then past his front door of the shop, the player runs screaming, and then shortly after, this zombie runs, and the shopkeeper just goes, holy fuck. What I mean? And suddenly his reality
Yeah, and he's
is
in it.
totally blown up.
Yeah.
And I said, thank you so much for this sanctuary, and ran out. And then ran up the hill. So there's
fun.
like those moments as well, which are like the spontaneous moments of
It's
just
those magic moments that just create themselves. You don't.
Yeah.
No one writes them. They just happen by nature of the design, and it's just
Yeah.
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 chef's kiss. It's good stuff.
That whole scene has kind of disappeared, relatively speaking, from my knowledge. And I think in some ways, you go back to the ARGs being financially not viable, and I 100% agree. And I think in many ways the one that has kind of made it possible is Pokemon Go. In a way, it is technically an ARG if you kind of really want to stretch those boundaries. But I think almost because that's happened, I wonder if that's now, it's like stopped people then actually making what I'd describe as more traditional real ARGs, where they're physical street games, or maybe more street game ends, where, but it just doesn't seem to be out there at the minute. And again, yeah, maybe it is cost, time, insurance, that kind of stuff.
content burden, right? With a lot of it. It depends on if you're doing multiple platforms. It's a big.
Again, though, I feel that's where those people like yourself kind of thrives, because weirdly, the thing that I said against that person crafting a single game, like coding a single game, that feels very different in an ARG, because you're making a newspaper, then you're making a game, then but fundamentally you're making the game. But do you know what I mean? It feels like you could just jump from bit to bit to bit to
very
bit to bit to
separate,
bit, and you feel like you're just constantly creating. And I think that is you do need that master of none, but ability to kind of like dive in and kind of fulfill a bit of production in this or that and this. And you do need like people that are across it all, because logic and common sense suddenly disappear if then there isn't someone.
What's the
one or two things that has really made an impact on you in terms of
My inspirations.
your inspirations?
I think I was back in the day. I guess I was like your classic ARGs that really inspired me is just stuff that I'm like, that's so clever. I could never in 1,000 years think of like how that puzzle worked. Like going even to this like your real classic like Cicada and like your early ARG stuff that comes with that. The sort of the depths of those puzzles and the things that you have to do, and like I'm just really taken back by the complexities of some of those, and just how there's a word for it where you're thinking outside the box, but you have to separate. I can't remember. There's a fancy word for that. How much you have to do that to even think when you hear like there's a music track playing and you notice that some of it sounds pretty weird, and like just the clarity of thought to go, I'll run that through like, is it like a not stenography, that's the typing, like a, what is it? The thing that exports sound waves into picture you used to send video over radio. There's a name for that. I can't remember what it's called. But to have like the presence of mind to run that music track through that, and it comes up with a picture, and like the how many like the complexities that you get when you start like looking at things like cryptographically and stuff like that. It's I just love it. I just love being. It's the same way the same reason I love magic and stuff like that. It's just I love being confused, and I love looking at something and going, how on earth did you think of that or create that? And it's the same with like complex ARGs. There's other ones I can think of, but I can't remember what they're called. And I think, but those like, I think I'm inspired consistently by looking at something and going, don't know how the f*** you did that. I want to do that. That's kind of my main like driving force, I think. And like a lot of people have spoken to me about 2.8 hours later. Our mutual friend Duncan, I think, has also spoken a fair bit about that in terms of that. And like, I think I love that. That sounds great fun.
So in terms of like what's next for you, what is next for you, Danny?
Oh, it's a great question.
Any upcoming projects that you might be excited about working on?
Yeah, I think that this year's been a bit, as we were talking before the cameras started rolling, it's a bit weird funding wise at the minute. There's not loads of money going around, so it's a little quieter than I would like it to be. I haven't got any like cool like tech creative projects on the go at the minute. One of the other hats that I wear, I work in theatre as a sort of technical stage manager / production manager. We've got a show that's opening at the Sherman in June. It's going to go on a little tour. Called Martin Decker Dad, working with the lovely Kieran Self. So excited about that. That's going to be really nice. A show called Choo Choo that I do with friends Nye and Duncan. That's going out as well at some point to Newport, which is going to be very exciting. Sure, there's other things as well I've subsequently forgotten about. The Immersive Schools project that I work on with Team is happening again. I'm not sure I'm allowed to talk about that. I don't really know how that works. But that is happening. Yeah, it's just like, I'm just doing a lot of sort of like scraping and sort of like getting by. It's like just like a lot of like little admin-y bits. I'm writing a couple of Arts Council applications for people. So to answer your question, nothing like super duper like wow exciting.
But
who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows?
Not me.
I don't either.
No.
But that's okay. Bobby the dog might.
Oh.
But she's sleeping it off. So.
Sleeping.
So just to say thank you so much for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure. We'll put links in the show notes where you can see Danny's work. So go and check it out.
Oh, thank you so much.
You've been listening to Crafted Reality with me, Ali John, and Julian Sykes. If you did like this episode, please remember to like and share with anyone you think might be interested. And remember, don't forget to check out our Patreon if you want to support the podcast. See you again soon.